Man, if I was President Trump, I would be shouting all over. I would be in there dancing like dun, 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 dun. Somebody go get the organ. Dun, 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 dun. Do you understand how close this man came to dying? And in one of my last videos, I mentioned that there were so many questions we had about the Secret Service and their protection over the president and how they just flubbed it up. And I'm starting to wonder, maybe that was so God could show some people that, this is out of man's hand. Maybe it was God allowing all of those fumbles to take place to show that this is divine intervention, and God has a plan for Trump, and he has a plan for this country that man cannot prevent from happening. Maybe, I'm just saying. So whether you're a Christian or not, you got to admit that this was miraculous, that the president was not killed. And we're going to watch a quick video that shows that this one dude prophesied would take place and how much of a miracle this was. Because I'm looking for a miracle. Yeah. And expecting the impossible. Let's get it.
Finished talking to the former president. You would think that he would be down. He's in the saddle. He's excited. And I said, is there anything that I could, share with the audience? And he paused for a second and he said, can you just tell him I love him? Just tell him I love him. And I appreciate them. And he said, did you see the people in the audience? Typically when shots are fired, there would be a stampede. But he said, did you hear them stand firm with me, stand firm with the country? And this is a president that wanted to let everyone know, let the world know that he's resilient. I mean, we talk all the time about what leaders do behind closed doors when tragedy happens and when they've not even met with gunfire. Most presidents aren't met with gunfire. We saw how he responds when gunfire is there. And I don't think that should be lost on us. But in a moment where he could be focused on himself, he just wanted me to let everyone know that he loves them. He loves them.
That right there was an amazing response. President Trump is a selfless man. He could be doing so many other things than risking his life to fight against very, very powerful entities that would love to stop him. And what's crazy about this, in spite of what appears to be divine intervention, allowing Trump to move forward, there are people out there that just will not accept the reality. They are doing everything they can to cope with how Trump might have survived this. You got people out there saying it's staged. You got people out there saying that, Trump planned this himself. All of this stupid stuff. Why wasn't the people behind him moving? Look, I was there. Your mind is actually delayed trying to figure out what took place. But right after I realized what took place, some people saying, let's go. And my reaction was no. I got up and started moving forward to see and check and see what happened, see if the president was okay. I wasn't thinking necessarily about just fleeing. I'm like, okay, as long as I don't hear bullets flying directly at me, I'm not really worried about, is there some secondary things that might take place? My first concern was, man, is the president okay? Because I understood the magnitude of what would happen if they killed President Trump. The country would be in a mess. Trump isn't the only one that dodged a bullet. The whole country dodged a bullet. And the way that Trump dodged that bullet really is out of the hands of Trump. And I know there are people saying that Trump saved his own life by turning his head and this and this and that. There comes a point where you just can't explain something and you just got to throw up your hands and say, that's God. That's God. Because Trump technically should have been taken out. But understand this. The reason I'm able to say that that's God is because I'm also looking at how they threw everything else at Trump from start to finish. All the impeachments, all the accusations, the demonizations, the lawsuits, the indictments, all of these things they have thrown at this man. And instead of him, one, quitting, he kept going, which is really, in my opinion, God has put that in him to continue doing that. Most people would have crumbled and said it ain't worth it. So it seems that God is the engine behind him just moving forward. But then secondly, all of the attacks that have come upon him, not only has he overcome them, but he's prevailed and he has grown more stronger and more powerful and popular. So it seems like no weapon formed against him and the country, because if this would have happened, if that shooter would have accomplished his goal, the country would be in chaos. And it makes me feel that God is not quite through with the country. He knew what would take place if Trump was taken out yesterday or the day before. So it seems like a little divine intervention. So now people that are carnal, even some Christians that aren't able to see this through spiritual lenses, they might interpret this as blind luck. Some of them, even God forbid, was hoping that Trump might have been taken out because they're suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. But they're trying to cope. They're trying to make sense of how someone that they interpret to be so evil can continue to dodge what appears to be legitimate obstacles in their head. One, they're not legitimate obstacles. All these indictments, impeachments, they were not legit. But to someone who's suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, they think it is. They think Trump is the one getting by and skirting through all of these things. And it's like, because of his white privilege or whatever, racism. So they can't imagine that. And to come to grips that Trump is still proceeding forward, they have to come up with some rationalization of it. Because the worst thing for them to admit is that maybe Trump isn't the bad guy. Maybe God is on Trump's side. I mean, what are the chances of this guy continuing on and almost being killed and something miraculous happen to where he gets hit in the ear instead of the head? There got to be something greater. Because if not, then they have to admit that, wow, maybe Trump isn't as evil as I thought. Maybe he's not the villain in this story. Maybe the people that have every incentive to take him out, all the people who've been demonizing him, bringing up all these charges and all of this, maybe they're the villains. Maybe I got it wrong. That's a hard pill for people to swallow. And they don't want to show Trump that empathy, because then that would mean that he's worthy of it. They want him to be viewed as unworthy of empathy, unworthy of God's grace, unworthy of God's mercy. How could God have, allowed Trump to survive that if he's so evil? That's the question.
What's going through my mind now, first of all, is we heard the story of that person, an innocent, enthusiastic rally goer who was shot and killed. First, our heart goes out to them and our condolences goes out to that family. But I should say this, Trace, is that I personally believe that God intervened today, not just on behalf of President Trump, but on behalf of our country. If you think about this, 1 centimeter's distance in the path of a bullet was the future of not only Donald Trump's life, but I think the life of the United States of America. Imagine what we would be talking about today were it not for a hair's length difference in the path of a bullet. And I think that that's frightening. And I think that this is a moment for us all to step back. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, voting for Biden, voting for Trump, it doesn't matter. This is a moment where if one positive thing comes out of this otherwise near tragedy, let it be this, that first of all, we saw a president, a commander-in-chief, who in his most vulnerable moment, you saw it unvarnished. He stood up, he took the fire, he took the hit, and still stood up for the people who he stepped up to represent.
That is absolutely awesome. America doesn't even realize how much we dodged a bullet. These people out there that's mad because Trump survived and they're trying to make excuses of this being, staged and all that stuff. And I'm saying your logic has been compromised. When people start trying to come up with excuses of what took place and saying, oh, it's staged, I'm saying you're far gone. I was there. I saw what took place. Trump would have had no incentive to stage something like this. You understand that, right? The guy who's leading in the polls, the guy who has no reason to say, well, now that I'm leading in the polls and people are saying that Creepy Sleepy has a zero chance of winning, I think the best path forward is to go ahead and stage an assassination attempt and trust that somebody can just hit my earlobe and not hit my head. And then who cares if innocent bystanders get killed? I'm going to do all of this just to solidify my victory in November. People aren't thinking rationally. And so to conclude that God might have intervened for Trump is a hard pill for these people to swallow, but I'm going to provide a little evidence that might convince them.
Donald Trump has given his first interview after surviving the assassination attempt at the weekend. He talked about how he's lucky to be alive, why his shoes fell off during the attack, and how the events of the weekend will change his campaign going forward. He spoke to a New York Post reporter. Let me give you some of the key things that he said, and we'll talk about them. On surviving the assassination attempt, he told the Post the doctors at the hospital said that they'd never seen anything like this. They called it a miracle. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be dead. By luck or by God, many people are saying it's by God, I'm still here. And Caleb and Liz, I don't think anyone would disagree with that. Had it not been for that slight turn of the head at the last moment and a couple of millimetres, we'd have a very different story this week.
The highlight, the defiance of this man. Keep in mind, when he fell to the ground, all he'd done was grasp his ear and be like, oh, something's going on here. Fell to the ground. You don't actually know in those seconds. He would have been crouched on the ground going, am I shot? Where am I shot? Totally. I know that I'm bleeding. Yeah. Because a lot of people, when they are shot, their first question is, am I shot? Because, of course, your adrenaline shoots through the roof. You don't know how serious it is at the time, etc. and so on. As soon as he gets to his feet, he says, wait, to the Secret Service trying to wrestle him off stage, raises his fist in defiance and mouths, fight, fight, fight. And that's what he spoke about next in this interview. He said a lot of people say it's the most iconic photo they've ever seen. They're right, and I didn't die. Usually you have to die to have an iconic picture. I just wanted to keep speaking, but I just got shot. You don't get more Trump than this. Of course, the lefty media took umbrage to the fact that this had been his attitude seconds after being shot, and they're saying, oh, that's not the message that we think should be sent right now. What on earth other message do you want to see from the man vying for the top spot as leader of the free world, which is currently a joke? There's not much freedom going on, is there? But commander-in-chief, that is the kind of strength and dignity and fighting spirit that you want to see in a guy who's just been shot. And I dare say at the time, again, he still didn't know what the damage was. And I dare say that was a message to everyone there and watching around the world, no matter what happens to me. From this day forward, you guys have got to continue the fight.
I mean, anybody who doesn't vote for Trump is an idiot. I mean, you're not able to see real leadership. And I think God is using Trump to give us, as a country, one more shot at greatness, give many folks in the country a chance to enjoy some of what America stands for. And you know, as a Christian, a lot of Christians some grace to pull it together. Hopefully many Christians will see the hand of God as Trump moves into his second presidency, and they will realize that, man, maybe I didn't see it. I was blinded by whatever, and I wasn't able to see how God was using Trump. And they made this mistake with Saul in the Old Testament, thinking Saul was a perfect king, and they overlooked David because David didn't fit the image that they were looking for, because they were looking through worldly lenses and not spiritual lenses. So you get Trump surviving this, and even the doctors are saying, man, that was a miracle. This dude shouldn't have been alive. I don't think you understand how close he came to dying, which I have an illustration to help you see that. But before that, listen to this prophet back in March 15th, 2024.
Because the Lord told me, he said, I am not done with America. Amen. He said, there's going to be a new wave of patriotism coming out. And that's whenever I saw Trump, and I saw a red wave coming out of Michigan. And then I saw Oklahoma, and there was embers of people, and they were all on they had torches all throughout Oklahoma, and they were raising up these torches that looked like fire. And they were bringing forth a new patriotism upon the nation. And it was being birthed, and it just kept spreading like fire all throughout America, all throughout. And I saw Trump rising up, and then I saw an attempt on his life. This bullet flew by his ear, and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. And I saw he fell to his knees during this time frame, and he started worshiping the Lord. He got radically born again during this time frame. I'm talking, people say he's saved now, but he becomes really on fire for Jesus, for what I saw coming. And then I saw people interceding when I saw him winning the presidency through great. The Lord showed me it would go clear into the summer. Great persecution would come on him through the judges and through the law and all these people trying to sue him and all this stuff. But there would be a stop to it, and things would start to break free come toward the fall. And then I saw him winning the election through the Patriots coming out and voting.
That is enough to make me want to get up out this chair and start shouting. Do you understand how accurate that prophecy is right there? That is like, look, as a Christian, I understand that the prophet has a dangerous job. In the Old Testament, if the prophet got up there and wung it and made some predictions that didn't come true, that person was stoned. This man just prophesied it. Everything far as the persecution of him politically and how it just came to a stop. The fact that the bullet came flying past, hit him in the ear, and he fell down. This, wow. I mean, hey, if I wasn't a Christian, I would still be going, that sounds a little more than just a coincidence. Those are a lot of details that man just ripped off. And then he talked about how towards the fall, all of these attacks and lawfare would just fall. And we found out today that Jack Smith's case has been thrown out. I mean, all of their lawfare is failing. At what point do they realize that maybe this is greater than me? We should give up trying to attack this dude because there's something bigger than us motivating him to move forward and protecting him as he does. And now, after seeing him take a bullet, get up for the country, throw his fist up and encourage people, do you understand the patriotism that's going to sprout up out of this? I was riding up the street yesterday and people in my city was on the side of the road with Trump signs and American flag signs, and they were all just screaming and we blew the horn. Patriotism and love for this country is on the rise, and Trump inspired so many people, and it lets me think that God is not done with America yet. And look what else took place.
What you're seeing here is an American flag that was flying at Trump's rally in Pennsylvania. The wind tangled it into the shape of a guardian angel just before he came on stage. Take a look at this. This is a graphic of just how close, how infinitesimally close Donald Trump came to certain instant death. I mean, we're talking literally millimeters. Forget the freaking inches talk. We're talking millimeters. Had he not turned his head again just ever so slightly out of the way of that bullet, the catastrophe that we would have all witnessed on live television would have been more than any of us could bear. Make no mistake, we were spared far more than a national trauma. We were spared what would have been one of the most catastrophic moments in modern politics anywhere in the world. And it may have been the event that ripped our nation apart forever. It would have been a catastrophe of monumental proportions. And instead, what happened? The bullet not only zipped millimeters from Trump's head, nicking his ear, but Trump rose from what would have been one of the single most traumatic events in all of modern politics, and he transformed it into the single most iconic moment of triumph and victory. He turned certain death into spectacular defiance. He turned a moment that would have torn our nation apart and transformed it into a moment when we, the people, became more united than ever before. This is the miracle.
And the miracle it is. Just a slight last second of a head turn. And understand, guys, Trump really had nothing to do with it. That was nothing but God. He turns his head and he gets just his ear hit. I mean, that could have went so wrong. And it shows that really God is showing, number one, his enemies that they can't stop him, because right now God's hand is on Trump. It's greater than them. But it's also showing us that, you know, all we can do for Trump is pray. Trump really can't even do anything for himself because God has the final say so. He, for whatever reason, has anointed Trump to be the leader of the United States at this point, or at least it appears that he's going to be the leader of the United States at this point. And to really show his divine intervention, I think he allowed a scenario to take place that defies all logic, all probability, and takes the glory out of anybody else's hands except for his, because that surely would have torn the country into two if Trump wouldn't have just slightly turned his head. He has no idea how close he was to death. And God intervened. That's all I could just chalk it up to. God intervened. People out there will call it luck, fate, or whatever, but I see the hand of God in that.
This is the transformative miracle we all witnessed on J13. And we have to ask, how did that miracle happen? How on earth was a catastrophic world-altering moment transformed into the single most iconic image of triumph and victory. And again, as a trained theologian, I will tell you precisely what happened. You happened. Here's what I tweeted out that night at 6:56 p.m. Quote, "Make no mistake, tens of millions of prayers for this man over the last several years were the shield that protected him this day."
That's right, man. So there you have it, man. It seems that God worked it out because when I first started getting messages from people that were closer to the stage, my heart dropped. I'm telling you, I mean, it just dropped. People thought that he was killed. And I'm thinking, wow, maybe God is through with America. Maybe this is it, because we're definitely going to fall apart if this is the case. And I was so relieved and so thankful when the word came out that he was okay and he threw his fist up to let us know to fight, fight, fight. Now, the enemy hates this, to defy the devil when he has thrown everything at you. The Democrats, the fake news, all of them hates this. They know that this is iconic. They know that him prevailing after that and throwing his hands up like this and saying, I'm not even worried about my safety at this moment, but I'm letting y'all know that I'm with you. Fight, fight, fight is only going to encourage Americans to get behind this person, because that right there is a true leader. And it also shows us that maybe this movement is bigger than Trump and all of us. So God bless America. Don't forget, check out every night my live stream 7 to 9. Take care.